E, bom, a gente agora, por questão só da agenda, a gente vai trocar e agora vamos ter o grande oportunidade de estar com o Quentin George. O Quentin, ele é Senior Partner na McKinsey, ele tem uma experiência de mais de 25 anos trabalhando em e-commerce. O Quentin está se conectando lá de Nova York com a gente, vai ser um call. Então eu queria, pessoal, até acho que tem algumas pessoas ainda que não pegaram o aparelhinho para tradução, quem achar que precisa, a gente tem lá rapidinho, lá no fundo do palco, tá?
Of course.
E a gente, então, um minutinho aí só para quem for pegar e a gente começa aqui, tá? Bom, acho que não precisa nem de um minuto. Então, Quentin, thank you for having us here. So excited to hear a lot about what you guys are looking for, hearing about retail media in the US, in the world. There are so many opportunities, I'm aware of that. And I'm super honored to have you here. And well, the floor is yours. Please enlighten us how to properly do that, because we're here in the beginnings. And we're trying to grasp here a lot about what you guys are struggling over there and all of the learnings that you already have. So please, and thank you so much for the opportunity to have you here. Super, it's a pleasure. And well, there's a lot of people here to learn a lot with you. So thank you, Quentin, and please go ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody. I would have loved to have been there today with you in person. Instead, I'm in Miami. I've been speaking at another conference, but about my favorite topic, which is retail and commerce media. And so maybe just a little bit of background on me, because it'll give you some context. I've been with the firm just over 3.5 years, and I lead our commerce media practice. We have done more than 21 retail media builds in North America alone, and 15 plus in other markets around the world. Starting, but very excited about our Latin American growth and helping brands there. Prior to that, I spent my career on the I spent my career on the agency side. And so pertinent to this conversation, I was involved in the creation of Target, the Roundel media business in the US. So look, the exciting part of retail media is not just about retail, but this new phenomenon of closed loop media planning and buying. The way that we have been planning and buying media has evolved over the course of the last 50 to 100 years, in that we've spent most of our time connecting impressions to audiences. And even with the rise of programmatic media, we've been involved in scenarios where we've essentially optimized for audience delivery. What makes commerce media exciting is we can now finally tie impressions to SKU level sales. And we think that that's a really transformative trend, not just for media and marketing, but across the entire ecosystem. And so the meteoric rise of retail and commerce media is no longer a surprise. You have 85% of advertisers that currently use at least one retail media network in addition to Amazon. You have 53% growth of retail of ad spend in retail media, and to give you a sense, that is more and faster growth than Google or Facebook. And 73% of advertisers have used retail media for at least 3 years or more. And so these are really, quite astonishing and impressive statistics by anyone's measure. And it's because of the clear benefits that it has on the right-hand side. The ability to give you unique brand and shopper insights, attractive CPMs, it's unrivaled performance because you're optimizing for return on ad spend, and then access to new audiences, all with an easy-to-use service. And so the global retail media market has grown substantially. You can see there cumulatively it still is at a 21+% annual growth. And those are numbers that are excluding of China and excluding of Amazon. And so you can see how quickly this has grown. And again, because of the wonderful attributes that it offers retailers on the right-hand side. It's the ability to take the traffic that you've got and create new ad placement opportunities, rich data across a wide range of customers, the ability to be near or at the end of the funnel where customers are making these transactions. It's a safe environment because you don't have a lot of bot traffic that arrive at a retailer site. And then lastly, as I said, the holy grail of tying impressions to SKU level sales with closed loop measurement. And so consequently, every retailer of scale plays in this market. And we say that, I think there was a period of time when we said, it would be nice for you to have a retail media network because we think it's incremental, high margin revenue. But recently there was a study done on Amazon's retail business. And when you take the ads business out of Amazon's retail business, even Amazon will lose $11.6 billion a year. And so our contention to all retailers and retailers of scale is, if you don't have a retail media at this point, you either think that you are out executing someone like Amazon, or you think that your audiences are relatively unique. And look, I understand that Amazon has very little penetration in many of the LATAM markets, but I think it just goes to show how you can build a very profitable and successful business on that first-party data. And so that means that other big players have been able to make some investments and accelerate their capabilities. You've seen someone like Walmart Connect first outsource that completely, then bringing it in-house, and then launching a series of products and self-services capabilities, and then advancing partnerships with ad placement opportunities offsite with TikTok, Snapchat, Firework, and Roku. And you can see that there is actually an advantage if you start later because the ecosystem is so much more evolved. There's so many more advertisers that now know what a retail media network is, and you don't have to do so much convincing as opposed to just 3 years ago. And so you can see the logos at the bottom there across almost every category of retail that you can imagine. Because remember, the transaction here is the unit of value, not necessarily just impressions. And so again, when I say across the entire retail landscape, obviously grocers are in there, specialty retail, sporting goods, home improvement, consumer electronics, even beauty brands are very active in that. And the reason for that is because the structural drivers really act as a tailwind for retailers and retail media. First of all, the shift towards digital channels accelerated through COVID, although some of that has gone to normalize a little bit. But that means that there's more signal for retailers to be able to build capabilities on. There certainly is a shift towards more accountable advertising, and in every market, every brand continues to be under pressure to get more from the same amount of media budget. And so during COVID, as we spent a lot more money closer to the transaction, a lot of CPGs got to better understand how that money is directly tied to influence a consumer at the moment of decision. And now, even though as we go back further up the funnel, we continue to want to, as brands, have the ability to see that closed loop happen. There certainly is a flight to quality for inventory, both inventory and audiences. And because of the rigorous opt-in nature associated with retail and retail media networks, it creates a very safe environment to be able to do on-site, and then a robust, high-resolution audience to then can go and use and buy off-site. There is a lot of people would say, well, where does this investment come from that goes into retail media? And there's a certain amount of, call it cannibalization, of existing shopper marketing funds that usually used to be captured for inserts and circulars. But as you start to get a drawdown from traditional linear television into more addressable television, retail media networks offer that very next step, which is to say, if we then go to addressable television, it gives us the ability to use our first-party audiences and then have finally the potential to close the loop again from a transaction perspective. And then lastly, great retail media businesses get built off great loyalty programs. And if there is not a value proposition for customers, I think it's a non-starter. And so the retailers we've worked with take great care to have privacy by design to make sure that consumers understand what their data gets used for, and that there's ultimately value for them in being able to get more relevant offers and incentives against that. This is more of a recent trend, which is to say, retail media is not just for CPGs anymore. We've seen 30 to 40% non-CPG year-over-year growth across retail media, and in some cases outpacing CPG spend rate. And so you can see in different categories, non-consumer industries, as in technology, apparel, and specialty retail, financial and other services, automotive and others, spend money on retail media because of the attractiveness of the audience that goes beyond the endemic spend associated with it. All right, so now that I've got a lot of people excited about the prospect of that, there is still a substantial gap between the vision of what retail and commerce media can do and should do, and the reality of a brand buying media against each of those. And so we're not naive to that, but I think it's important to recognize I had a front row seat in the creation of the programmatic ecosystem from the demand side, and I'm eager for us as an industry to avoid the pitfalls that we've had along the way. And so number one, there is substantial challenges in reporting and measurement and the standards associated with that. I think that is likely to get better, but it's also important to get better, because if we don't, I think we don't create a fantastic mechanism for brands to be able to get great value. The second one is just a question of time. Retailers are in the retail business, and now when you build a media business for them, they are in the media business. And I don't know about you, but if you are creating new businesses that are non-core, there's usually a warm-up time, or there's usually a period of time that you have to figure some of the issues and working parts out before you're ready for prime time. And so I think just having a little bit of patience and an acknowledgement that retailers are quite willing to work with brands to ensure that that is a mechanism that can scale over time. And then lastly, the opacity. People talk about transparency with walled gardens and uncertainty around incremental benefits. I think it's a fair question for a brand to ask. If you use first-party data, I'd like to know where off-site are you going to place those ads, and you need to be ensured that it's in brand-safe environments, that it has some notion of viewability, and that all of these things can be verified by a third party, so that you're not scoring your own homework. But look, we run a survey every 6 months where we speak to 200 of the most influential retail media buyers, and they list a range of different challenges that they have with retail media, but they always end with, and when we ask them the question around what their intention is in terms of spend for the next quarter or the next year, it is always substantially more than even most of the projections are. And so I think that's the challenge in the industry, is there's such a gap between what the potential of this is and the reality and the growing pains that we have against that. And so I'll close off with a couple of things, and I'm going to do it from both the demand and the supply side, and the work that we do at McKinsey is across all of those. And so it gives us a pretty unique perspective on being able to see across the entire customer experience journey and value chain. And so I'll start with, if you're a retailer, the first is, strategic intent. This is, if you want to have this to be at full potential, you have to have this as a strategic business. It needs to be a top management problem, and it needs to be a CEO and CEO leadership team endorsement, because we've seen many of these businesses be shared services inside of shared services, and they don't get to full potential because they're not resourced right. They don't have the right access. They don't have the scope of control. They don't have the permission to use inventory in smart ways. And so that's an important thing to be able to do. The second thing is crafting a unique value proposition. And, I'll fast forward and say, it doesn't matter who you are. It's not going to be the nature of your platform. It's possibly not even going to be the nature of the people that do the planning and buying or services associated with it. The uniqueness here is the access to your audiences. And so the ability to create an efficient mechanism for those brands to have access to those audiences, it's what makes this a profitable entity. The third thing is around building the analytical capabilities. A lot of the conversation in media is going to be around performance, and they should be so, because, who doesn't want to have media that performs? Or who doesn't have media that doesn't perform? But what gets lost with there and with measurement is, because of the clarity of the signal, you get audience insights that you can now go and take and parlay into better creative. It can help adjust your media plan for digital out of home, for your television schedule, for your pricing, for your promotions, for your understanding of news audience segments, or even the attributes that drive performance. And so those are two very powerful levers to be able to add, and what you can uniquely add, because not in a Facebook or a Google or any of the other big walled garden players can provide that level of insight. And then lastly, not to be diminished, is data security and pricing. We're going to make sure that these are safe environments for brands to be able to advertise, both the on-site entities that you own and operate, but also the ability to go off-site. And then, a broad range of pricing to match each of the ad placement opportunities, so that you can have ad placement capabilities that range from awareness to consideration to when you do the transaction and get close to conversion and be where the customer makes a decision. So let's move on to the bold moves for advertisers. The first one is, it's a data-driven market. The retail media networks are essentially audience attention monetization markets. And so working productively with your retail media partner gives you the ability to really get deep on understanding data, and if they can make it available, you should be able to have your own interpretation so that you can maximize the performance that you have against that. The second one is, find the right partners, or I should say, partner with the right partners. As I mentioned early on, there are many retailers that are very serious about committing to and building these businesses because they are so profitable, both in terms of revenue as well as margin. But finding the right partner that you can have a strategic conversation as opposed to a commercial conversation, I think is going to be beneficial for you over the long term. Doing that across 100 partners is not productive, and so who are the handful of partners that you can meaningfully help shape those businesses to be able to go and do that. Multiple platforms. I think a lot of brands ask us, look, if there's 25 or 35 retailers and retail media networks, should I buy from all of them? And my answer to that brand would be, do you really need to sell through 35 different retailers? Because if the answer is yes, and maybe you have other reasons for doing it, why would you concede that advertising space to a competitor, or that share of voice to a competitor who is likely to operate within the category? And when you have customers that are making decisions, you want to be close to be there. The next one is around budget allocation. I think right now there is, on the brand side, there's a little bit confusion about who gets to pay and fund for this. There's an argument to be made that this comes of what we traditionally used to call shopper marketing or below the line marketing. That's more aligned with sales. But some of the smarter and more sophisticated brands have realized that there's value in going in the opposite direction and expanding that into brand advertising as well. And so as a brand, you're going to start to look across those pools of money and see what the allocation is and make sure that you're applying the right type of advertising funds to the right part of the channel and that you synchronized around that. And the last one is, build the organization, map decisions and decision routes across the brand, shopper, and retail accounts, and start to think holistically about how you want to create customer experience journey and have the right type of opportunity against each of that. And so with that, I'll end. I'll thank you for your time, and then I believe there's some opportunities for some questions.
Well, thank you, Quentin. Super. Thank you so much, Quentin. I think there's a lot of opportunities for us here in Brazil to leverage on top.
I don't think I can hear you guys.
Oi? Fala em português? Quentin, super obrigado pela oportunidade de entender um pouquinho de como está se destravando todo esse potencial que o Retail Media tem fora, um pouco dos aprendizados. Né? A gente tem muita coisa que vem acontecendo por ambos os lados, essa maturação. E, bom, a gente tem aqui a possibilidade também de conversar um pouquinho com o Quentin. Não sei se alguém tem alguma pergunta, a gente tem tempo para algumas perguntas aqui com o Quentin, acho que isso vai ser bem legal. Então queria abrir para vocês. Eu tenho algumas organizadas aqui, não sei se vocês querem que eu quebre o gelo, mas se ninguém... Gui, deixa eu passar o microfone aqui.
Quentin, boa tarde, prazer ouvir você. A pergunta seria, você falou do lado do anunciante, né, que as empresas mais inteligentes estão também fazendo do lado de marketing, o que é verdade. Do lado do varejista, existe muito uma disputa ainda de você parecer que está tirando verba de trade e aí está anunciando muito forte no retail media. como que você vê o caminho ideal para os varejistas, já que temos muitos aqui?
Got it. So for the person who asked the question, are you asking this from the perspective of a retailer or a brand?
A minha pergunta é na perspectiva do varejista. Então, como o varejista deveria trabalhar lá dentro para que ele não pressione a indústria para jogar dinheiro de um lado ou do outro lado, mas que ele se resolva lá dentro?
Okay, so a couple of observations. The first, there is going to be cannibalization, whether you like it or not, because in many instances there's been this move from inserts and circulars that didn't have the right level of transparency.
Ok, obrigado.
And all on, so, but I will also then say, what has happened is, if you don't create a retail media network, we have seen brand advertisers take money from people who are not transparent and give it to the people who are transparent.
Ótimo, obrigado.
A pergunta assim, hoje já existe um investimento de omnitrade sendo feito pelas indústrias, né? Isso já existe. O quanto é saudável o incremento que se tem visto no mercado em ads da própria indústria no varejo, né? Para que também não haja canibalização desse dinheiro, mas também que haja um investimento novo para uma nova receita. O que ele tem visto aí de incremento de um dinheiro novo, além do omnitrade, mas olhando para o ROAS, como o Guilherme trouxe na apresentação.
Yes. Most of the sophisticated players are going beyond trade funds and into brand marketing funds. Now, that's easy to say, but it's difficult for many reasons. Because you're dealing with agencies and not just brands anymore. And when you deal with the agencies, they have so many places to place advertising. And so your value proposition needs to be very strong, your case studies need to be strong, the performance needs to be strong. But most of the growth that we've seen for the previous things is beyond shopper marketing. You can't sustain that growth without brand marketing.
Boa, pessoal. Tem mais alguma pergunta? Alguém tem aí uma curiosidade para perguntar para o Quentin? A gente tem mais tempo para mais uma. Ninguém?
Tchau.
Eu tenho uma então, Quentin. Nesse sentido da gente entender um pouco o desafio desse senso de colaboração da mídia acontecendo, da gente buscar esse incremental, que eu acho que é o desejo de todo mundo, da gente capturar uma verba hoje que ela transita em outros meios que não o varejo. O que você vê como talvez o grande ponto-chave nessa colaboração, né? Acho que a gente tem alguns caminhos, então talvez aí, se você tiver algum ponto a contribuir em relação a qual que talvez seja esse caminho para ser seguido nesse senso de colaboração e da gente buscar essa incrementalidade.
Yeah. So I think we have to manage a shift. And the shift is from a transactional relationship to a strategic relationship. Did you get that?
I think so.
Can you hear me now?
We are hearing you. Não, ótimo. Então,
Yes. So I'll just start again. We need to manage the shift from a transactional relationship to a strategic relationship. Okay, and what that means is we have to argue less about what the pricing is and more starting to understand each other's business and the business outcomes we want to effect. And so what that means is we need to start to think about how we can learn from the performance here because of the signal that is so strong. And that gives us the ability to influence all of our media. Because again, even the most powerful media we have today, the performance is being optimized towards audience delivery. And now we're moving from impressions to SKU level sales. And so if we continue to argue about pricing, we're not talking about the strategic issues. And so seeing good partnership is when you get a brand and a retailer work together because they both want to have customers that transact. Does that help?
Excelente. Acho que conversa bastante um pouco com o que a gente está olhando aqui. Realmente, essa mudança entre um caráter muito transacional, que historicamente aqui no Brasil é a nossa grande realidade, e é o nosso grande desafio. Eu acho que no mundo todo passa por esse cenário, e a gente passa a nutrir essa relação estratégica com as indústrias. E saindo um pouco do modelo do JBP, né, em que você vai sentar junto e tentar criar como a gente vai vender até esse ano e passar muito para decisões estratégicas próximas com regularidade, para a gente poder cada vez mais construindo performance e eficiência ao longo do tempo durante essa parceria. Quentin, super obrigado. Excelente material que você trouxe. Acho que ainda temos bastante dúvida, a gente está aprendendo muito aqui. Então, você mandou os seus contatos, a gente vai usar eles. Pode ter certeza que a sua caixa de e-mail ela vai ser abarrotada de dúvidas, mas é um prazer ter você aqui, ter essa aula. Então, obrigado pela parceria e a gente com certeza vai estar próximo aí nos nossos próximos eventos. Então, um abraço e de novo, obrigado.
Hey, listen, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I wish I was there with you today. Hopefully in the future there's an opportunity.
Obrigado, Quentin, pessoal.
Thank you.